Postgame edition.
Thanks.
First show of the new year. Our New Year's resolution was not to get angry, and we're gonna blow it right here.
Damn it!
We'll see.
All right.
I don't know. Jimmy can control himself, man. I don't know about you, John.
Yeah, John,
Jimmy can't sway so much. Jimmy can't sway too much when we do the windows like this.
Oh shoot, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So you got to stay straight, my friend. Shoot straight here.
Stay straight.
All right.
That'd be hard.
Everybody saw what happened. Bad. Okay. Celtics lose to the Pistons. The game started horribly. Celtics roared back. Looked like it was one of those like, oops, we'll be fine. Pull it together late. Just horrible execution and shot selection down the stretch. People will debate it. Good shots, open shots, taking things in rhythm. A Grant corner three, Marcus Smart, open three in transition there, the step up. Again, Smart's layup there. And they're not the only ones who missed shots. Tatum and Brown both missed wide open threes, one to have taken a lead, one to tie the game. But I'm willing to accept those guys missing shots. I'm not willing to accept the other guys missing shots.
I agree with you on that.
You don't want them to take it, though. I think that's what it is.
I don't want them to take it. I wanted to late in the clock when you work it around, maybe a different story. In almost all of those instances, I just didn't want Smart. I just don't want Smart shooting late. I mean, I don't know.
No, you're totally. I mean, I kind of share that opinion with you, which I know probably doesn't make the best TV, but I'm with you on that. I mean, when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are hitting shots as effectively as they were tonight, I don't have their field goal percentage in front of me, but I know that they were hovering around 50% or better. So those guys. That said, Bobby's here. That said, Jason Tatum did miss a wide open three. The guy you want taking the shot. I think Jaylen Brown. Did he miss one too down the stretch there?
Jaylen missed the last one.
Yeah,
Tatum missed
Jaylen missed the last one. Right, Jaylen missed the last one. So it's kind of unfair to just single out Marcus Smart in the situation because everyone.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
I know, and I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, come on.
I understand where you're coming from because you want to maximize your I guess shots with your two-headed monsters there, but those guys missed him down the stretch too. So, I mean,
it's not just them, Jimmy, though. Jaylen Brown did not have the ball in his hands nearly enough in the fourth quarter. I mean, entire possessions where you had to check to see if he was on the floor. Forget taking the shot. It just didn't swing through him. Okay. So Jeff Teague comes in, and the first thing he does is look for his shot. He scored the second time, but at no point was he thinking about working it around or getting it to the two J's. They just allowed the offense to run through different people. Like Jaylen Brown, they went entire possessions that the ball didn't get into his hands.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to go Smart on this one. Grant Williams takes 2 of those last 9 shots.
I know. When you're late, Bobby, you're going to miss stuff. We hit Grant.
Yeah. So my point is, this goes back to what we've been talking about all season. Who's that fifth man in the lineup to close a game? We haven't been high on Grant, and still, he's the best option that they have at that spot as a fifth option. And what did the Pistons do? They sealed the lane, got the ball out of Brown and Tatum's hands. I didn't think the only shot I thought was bad down the stretch was Smart's pull-up with 16 seconds left. And even that was kind of in rhythm off a pass. But they produced some good shots down the stretch. The problem is they went down 21 and probably were a little dead to end this game. But who's going to be your fifth reliable option when they get the ball out of Tatum's hands, when they get the ball out of Brown's hands? They still don't have one, and that's going to be a big part of surviving early this year is, finding a steady hand who can hit those open shots late.
But you're talking about the fifth.
Bobby, I think what John, you missed the part where John was saying that he just doesn't want it at all. Like, if those are good-looking shots, I don't mind those guys taking it.
Yeah, I don't either.
John, I understand that. But that's what happens when you give up, when you're behind by 21 points, when you're playing catch up. And that's what got them back. That's essentially what got them back. I mean, what sealed it was obviously Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They combined for 8 points in that fourth quarter to grab their first lead of the night. Their first lead of the night in the fourth quarter. So then moving on from that point, I felt like the flow of the offense, the way Marcus Smart was playing, the way he was attacking the basket, the way he was finding other guys, I thought he played great. He sort of earned those shots, if you ask me. But yeah, you miss those shots, you live with those misses, but John, you can't single out, you can't bring up Marcus Smart and not talk about Tatum and Brown taking those open looks that were great looks and they just didn't fall.
That Tatum look was awesome.
I mean,
every shot matters down the stretch. That's what happens when you're down by 21 points.
Well, they weren't down. Listen, it's the NBA. You're gonna go down big in a lot of.
They were
cases.
dreadful though early.
They earned that deficit. I mean, that was a horrific first quarter. Credit to them. The second half, they played with a lot more energy and a lot more purpose. They brought it back to a close game. They took the lead at points. They, as a team, collectively went completely cold late in that fourth quarter. I don't know exactly the full amount of time that it was that they didn't
because
score.
these guys needed a breather. I feel like, and then once they came back
I don't
into
know.
the rhythm of
They really
things,
need a. I mean, these guys.
once they came back in the rhythm of things, they
22.
couldn't hit the shots.
Jason Tatum's 19 years old and he needs a breather. I mean, these guys are professional players. Like, don't give me that. I mean, listen, they miss the shots. Sometimes they go down, sometimes they don't. But I'm with John in the sense where, and Bobby, you're talking about, they don't have a fifth option. They don't have a fifth option. It shouldn't come down to the fifth option. Brad Stevens should be able to get his guys in the correct sets to get your guys the ball. You don't think that they don't think that.
Well, he did that, you know.
The Rockets get James Harden the ball at the end. You know, I mean, you can go down the line on teams that get their star players the ball. So don't tell me that Grant Williams has to take the shot or Marcus Smart has to take the shot. Like,
well, John, let me ask you. Hold on, real quick, John. Let me ask you this though: how do you feel about the play itself, though? Because you got to look for Jaylen Brown.
One?
It wasn't an ISO look. It was a shot, obviously.
They were great plays, great sets.
I liked both plays setting up the Jalen and Jason because those are the guys you want to set up. Grant Williams should never be taking shots late in games, ever.
So you think that cost the game essentially, though?
I'm just saying, look, when you have games that are decided late, you point to the things that happen late. Obviously, the reason they lost this game is because they went down by 21 points to the Pistons and sleepwalked through the entire first quarter, and they found themselves in this position. It should never be this close. But in any late game situation, I just can't. You just don't want Grant Williams and Marcus Smart taking.
Well, if a guy's out there, they're gonna take an open shot, and that's the problem. Like he shouldn't be out there in that position.
That's Brad's offense, though. You know?
Yeah, and it was good offense. They went 0-9 to close this game, but it was all good shots except for that Smart one. So, I can't blame too much of what happened in crunch time here. What really threw them off, I felt like, though, to begin that fourth quarter was they put out that great lineup, arguably what should be the starting lineup by the end of this year. 3 guards and Rob, plus Tatum at the 4. And Rob goes down. They start mixing in Grant through that stretch. And, that might have been your closing 5 to end this game. But then you end up with that Grant-Tice combo that I haven't loved at all. And Tice played well again tonight. But, I've defended Grant as being a guy who can hit threes off of the, defense collapsing. And he couldn't do that late. So I don't know which Grant's giving you, period, if he can't do that. Another rough night for him, -3.
You know who could do that, Bobby? Sadiq Bey, 5 3-pointers. Man, does that dude look like he's not a rookie, or is it just me? I don't know.
And this is, I remember our conversation vividly about him because I think we both liked him. And he was a wing, a guy who could fill in at the wing right away, a guy who had played multiple years of college basketball like Pritchard, and was ready to go on the defensive end and was a 40% three-point shooter. He'd be looking pretty good on that wing spot for Boston. There's no doubt about that.
3 and D.
So Rob Williams went up, but he was apparently available to play. Is Brad Stevens still? We're kind of picking up where we left off with like the center position here, where it's like on any given night it could be any of these guys just getting minutes. We have really no rhyme or reason to who it is or when or why. Whether it's Tice, Thompson now in the mix, Rob Williams, Grant Williams. Again, I'm not like hating on Grant Williams. I just don't know if he's ready for crunch time, end of game minutes. I would rather, and I know that Thompson's not going to help you with any outside shooting, but don't tell me that Tristan Thompson isn't familiar with like being a big game player in the fourth quarter, because he is, and he can grab boards. He can give you extra opportunities. A guy like Rob Williams, you already know that what he's capable of working with Tatum and Brown. So I just don't know if Grant Williams is helping you more or hurting you more when he's in there late in games. So.
They don't have a lot of options right now, and that's the killer. And that's
what I mean, guys. Jaylen Brown. We're not just talking about the last 3 or 4 possessions. Jaylen Brown did not have the ball nearly. He was unguardable in this game. Okay, he was unguardable. Okay, I'm so confused by all of the late game execution. We always point to Brad here, and everyone will say it's an overreaction. Guys are going to take open shots. This is again at those times. Do the people on the floor know what they're supposed? Are the people on the floor told just go out there and play, and if you have a shot, take it? Are they told, hey guys, be careful with the ball here, get it to Jalen and Jason, they're cooking. If something comes to you within the flow, sure, take it. Or is it go out there and if you want, dribble around and see if you can score on your own? It's cool. Everybody likes basketball. It's fun. Like, I don't know. Like, those back-to-back team possessions are the ones that kill me more than anything. Who told – and Thompson one time just got the ball and started powering his way into the lane. Who told these guys that's what they're supposed to do? Like, I'm so confused at these times. Within the flow, like, what's amazing is Marcus – this was one of those games where everybody's cold, so I'm going to shoot because somebody's got to score, and Marcus hit a couple threes early. That's almost the worst thing that can happen for him because then he's like, oh, cool, I'm just going to shoot, you know?
Smart game.
Right, and then it turns into the Marcus Smart game. I don't think they never win any of those Marcus Smart games. When Marcus Smart scores a lot of points, those always go bad.
I don't know if that's his fault though. That usually means that other guys aren't scoring.
Everybody else was
was the problem tonight. Yeah, I didn't love the way Tatum started this game. Brown obviously was
no energy at all.
The ball handling, especially to begin this game, was shameful. And the rate at which this team's turning the ball over through some of these games to start the year is enormously concerning because the goal for this team by the end of the year is can Tatum, can Brown be your lead ball handlers, at least until Kemba Walker gets back and get you into those crunch time moments. There wasn't a quarter in this game where they weren't throwing the ball away or Smart was whipping it out of bed. Like everybody took some level of blame in that one. And that got the Pistons going too. The live ball turnovers that just sent them out in transition, got them a lot of second chance opportunities. I was surprised with how the Pistons came out in this one. They really battled. They took it to Boston from like the earliest minutes with the hard drives and just had endless energy to begin this. So I don't know, was it New Year's Eve or what that just had the Celtics looking dead in that first half? But you can't start a game anywhere so that you expect to be far ahead by the end of it. Detroit played a strong game here
for a bit, but you could see what was happening, and the Celtics should have. Once they pulled ahead by 5 points there, 6 points might have been the biggest lead. What
I think
was
it was 4 toward the end.
No, it was 5 for sure. It was 5 for sure.
Yeah, they had a 5-point lead in that fourth.
At least, yeah.
It was at the Tatum and Brown. They combined for eight straight. It was like an 8-0 run, and then they just went cold. Or the team went cold for 4 minutes? Those 4 minutes in the middle of the fourth. I mean, that's when you essentially take control of the game right there. That's what they did everything except that final step. It's like, man,
they needed one more shot pretty much.
21-point deficit. Right, exactly. You erased it, and you still have 8 minutes in the fourth, like plenty of time.
Yeah, or Marcus wasn't playing 2 free throws. Yeah, there were so many things that led to this.
The offense dried up, John. I think the offense dried up. I really do.
Completely.
I don't know if the ball at Jalen was the answer though. I don't. I hear you though. Those last couple of minutes, they were very liberal with the ball for sure.
And that's why, like, obviously, you want Jalen and Jason taking those shots down the stretch. But John, I mean, look at if you watched the game, we all watched the game tonight. Neither of those guys were anywhere near on from deep tonight. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the 3-point shooting tonight was terrific from both those guys. So
for the entire team, yeah,
exactly. So that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I mean, typically if I see Marcus Smart stepping into a 28-footer, I'm not happy about that. But I mean, it's a wide open shot in motion. I'll take it because Jalen and Jason, as good as Jaylen Brown was tonight, and really both guys really were, they were not, sharpshooters from, beyond the arc. I think Jaylen Brown was like 1 of 7 or 8 or something. So again, I mean, yeah, you want those guys being the ones down the stretch taking the shot every single time. But I will say, even though Jason Tatum missed the shot, or Jaylen Brown missed the shot, those were both 2 good looks out of stoppage. And it wasn't just Jason Tatum throwing up a step back 3-pointer prayer that, if it goes in, great. And if it doesn't, we're all criticizing Brad and criticizing Tatum for decision making. So yeah, the shots didn't fall tonight, but at least they got good looks. And you just take this L and you go back out there on Sunday, and hopefully they can, they should be able to take care of business on Sunday.
I like what you said about the centers, Jimmy, because if we look at this game, especially, you had 3 different guys in there, and I thought they all showed good signs, but this team still looks like its most cohesive self with Daniel Tice out there. It's 2 strong games from him in a row, I thought. He got the transition defense going a little bit. And if you look at those 2 last shots, those are great flare screens from him. He's such a great screen setter for this team to free up Tatum and Brown in those spots. But the problem is you have to play Grant with them. Like, either that or do the 2 center thing. And is this 2 center thing to start games going to keep going? Because it feels like every single night that's just a sloppy way to start a game where you have centers diving out on 3-point shooters and guys jumping on offensive rebound, getting beat in transition the other way. They're so stuck when it comes to lineups right now that when I saw Pritchard and Rob with the starters to start the 4th, I was like, here we go. Like, this is the lineup right here. And then it's done with that Rob injury.
I think a plus minus is a ridiculous stat and entirely overrated, but Tice still had the worst plus minus of the 3 of those guys tonight in his minutes.
I thought he looked good though. That block from behind, like he's making plays.
I'm just pointing it out. I thought he was fine, but again, it's not right. I thought he was fine.
No, I think in the second half it was like night and day Tatum Tice compared to the first half. It just seemed like he was like sleepwalking out there, and then came the hard screens, and he was a big part of that comeback. But yeah, I mean, him and Thompson though, I don't know if you can do that down the stretch in this one.
No, and Thompson got chewed up on the glass too.
Right.
Oh, Detroit's tough there.
And when Grant came in and he had that charging layup, you're like, okay, wait a minute now. Okay, now Grant's gonna have some momentum, but it just never really materialized towards the end of the game.
I give Tice credit for not just getting on the plane and going home after Jeremy Grant dunked on him. So he could have just left the whole arena after that. But
I love Jeremy Grant.
Continued playing. So good on him. That was a tough one. That was a poster, vintage poster right there.
Jeremy Grant.
What about the left-handed dunk though? Even though it didn't count, Jalen. Jeez.
Jalen, we're really looking at something special, Boone, right here. And you mentioned the 1 of 7 from 3 to start this game. He's pushing 60% from the field through 6 games. I mean, that's just like a center number.
You know what he was not from 3?
He's almost perfect. Do the math.
He missed like 2 shots.
Yeah,
11 for 13 from 2.
Yeah, his efficiency off the charts.
No free throws though. How do we feel about that? Didn't get to the line once tonight.
He did not. The officiating was a bit rough tonight. I'll say that.
It was loose. I mean, they let these teams fly up and down the court. I actually liked watching it. It was just nonstop pace tonight.
Nonstop pace, but like it was almost everything resulted in a turnover.
Yeah, I mean
Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown and the officiating. How about that offensive foul call? That it's kind of a hot topic going into today because of the Trae Young. Basically, what Trae Young does and what Chris Paul does is, they'll just kind of like stop and
and Jalen got a call on him.
Yeah, and like they always get the call for them, and Jalen did the same exact thing tonight, and he got the call against him, which you never see that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the refs are going to call that or not call that because it's consistent apparently across the league, anyways.
Yeah, it's funny to see them get hit with that and the seal thing in that Brooklyn game.
I know, it's crazy.
And I guess the whole conversation about the war on Tice continues. That's driving me crazy on these broadcasts because I was one of the original guys who talked about that, but then he just started fouling so much over the last 2 years that I was like, he's probably fouling. And still, like every broadcast, we have to hear about this. Like it's driving me crazy. But I think the team is where I want them to be. 500 through 10 games, through 20 games, however long they're with that stretch without Kemba Day, like stick around 500 and just keep scrapping away in these games because you look at how undermanned they are in terms of depth right now. They played Carson Edwards in the second quarter, and it's just like, what's going on? They're just like scrapping for anyone to step up on that wing, and he did not play well. He did not play well at all.
Well, because he's a friggin' G Leaguer, man. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and this is the worry with this team right now. He
goes in over Neesmith, so that.
All right, well, let's have the debate that Josue's been raring to have since the second quarter of the game. Okay.
Hey, I'm not ready to trade away Neesmith, but man, my boy Bay went off.
Not even that. It's just we talked about. You're not going to judge it after one game, but we talked about just who else is playing that's kind of drafted in and around that, and obviously cracking Detroit's rotation or in Sadiq Bey's case starting lineup. is something you can do on a roster like this, but the dude's playing 30 minutes as a draft pick that was in the conversation for who the Celtics picked there. So you're going to get a look at a bunch of these guys coming through here, and it's going to be kind of that first wave through, seeing what some of these kind of mid-range rookies have. This was your first look at Bay. What'd you think? Josue, he's your guy.
I love what I saw, John. I didn't expect the 3-point shooting to be this efficient, at least this early in his career. But defensively is where I was really I liked him for the Celtics big time. I mean, obviously the 3-point shooting is what the 3-and-D, the guy that sort of I feel like Brad's offense has been thirsting for years now, and I just thought he was the perfect NBA guy to go ahead right now. Now in a year or two, will Nesmith be better? I mean, we have to wait and see. But I just think defensively, he's just his body type, which is again another thing I really like about Nesmith. I think that's a huge addition to a team that has to play against some of the the Kevin Durant and the Giannis Antetokounmpo, some of the toughest players in the front court. And I think he could have really helped this team right away. We have to wait and see what's going to happen with Nesmith. But I mean, Saddiq Bey, he's already checking all the boxes.
Huh. That's a Bay insider right there. I got nothing to add.
I'm telling you, the Celtics, obviously we talked about it with the TPE. They're going to have to address that wing position, because at the end of the day, like, they need someone like that, another 3-and-D guy or something of that magnitude.
Yeah.
The tweet tonight. Selena's tweet tonight said Jeremy Grant having a nice audition for that Celtics TPE.
Yeah, that might have been me.
Is that a source?
That was definitely you.
I knew it was you, John. But Bobby's guy, Syracuse grad, right?
Yeah,
look. I mean, the reason guys point to him.
It's another example of how weak that wing position is for the Celtics, man. They need a secondary wing defender.
The reason people point to Grant is just because the money works, not necessarily because he's on the trade block. He was one of those guys that, like, the Pistons were like,
right.
Who will play for us, and
who can we overpay?
We've got money. Who can we overpay?
Yeah, but to Grant's credit, he's kind of like, he's definitely like making the most of his opportunity to play. So I mean, honestly, it goes back to, like, can the Celtics? I mean, if this guy gets too good, then he's just gonna be another player that's out of the question, because all they have is a TPE to offer. And we spent 20 minutes talking about Rob Williams. Would you trade Rob Williams for Anthony Davis? I think we talked about that for 20 minutes in the last show. And then Rob Williams, again, I know he got hurt in this one, but even prior to that, it wasn't like he was playing much at all. Again, I don't know what this guy has to do to get some significant burn on the team.
Jeremy Grant loves himself some Pistons basketball right now, because his minutes, his shots, everything on this team is up. He gets
his
to
life is up on this team for sure.
He gets to just chuck it. 24 field goal attempts. I mean, this is a guy who's averaged 20-something minutes per game, 10, 12 field goal attempts per game, and he gets to come here to Detroit and just chuck it. 24 times in one game.
He's loving life.
Yeah,
he's loving life. Career high. He almost hit it.
Yeah, if he gets traded to a place like Boston, he's going to be like, all right, so you're going to take it easy over here,
He'd be a 4 in Boston. Like, he'd be playing that spot that we talked about Grant in tonight. He's pretty much playing shooting guard on that massive Pistons team. And you look at their lineup with all the centers, and Jahlil Okafor wasn't playing for them tonight, but they just have centers galore there.
It's like a 6'8" guard. I mean,
doubling his field goal attempts from this year than last year.
I'll give him credit, though. He wanted to go there to be the man. Kind of a weird guy to think about being the man on a team, but he's done an okay job with it so far in terms of efficiency before tonight, putting up a ton of points. But I don't know how a team with, like you said, a power forward playing your 2 guard, Derrick Rose playing point guard, they have the most confusing roster in the NBA. But
that guy, this type of player is exactly what you would put in the Celtics starting lineup.
Yep,
to never, ever play Tyson Thompson together again. Okay, never, ever again.
He'd be a dream. He'd be a dream for them. I don't think they have the assets to acquire. What's Detroit going to acquire a 7th center? I just don't kind of see a trade working.
Exactly. I feel like Detroit always has 3 centers.
Maybe they will.
So.
Maybe they'll add Tice to play the 2 guard next.
Oh my God!
What is
this team makes no sense.
Oh, okay. I was looking at D Rose. Derrick Rose kind of like sneaky impressed me a little bit tonight. I mean, I know he's not the old Derrick Rose, but like you kind of forget about him. You just don't you just don't watch a lot of him anymore.
Completely forgot. In the broadcast, someone was like, "Oh, he used to be I was half not really, paying attention for a split second." And someone talked about, well, when you're a former MVP, you can something. I was like, who the hell on the Pistons is a former MVP? I was like, what kind of ill-informed idiot is doing this broadcast? And I was like, oh, it's Derek. It took, you just forget.
Right.
Yeah,
he had a good start to the regular season last year too, but people forget that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Dude,
and who's following the Pistons? I mean, they're the most listless team in this league. But they brought it tonight. They got some young players, so go ahead. They're 1-4.
But you know what though? I mean, he's coming off the bench for them. I mean, he's a prime candidate to be traded. I feel like because he could help a lot of teams.
He was last year too. A lot of people thought he was going to go to the Lakers.
That's going to come up again.
Contract.
You know what, Bobby? That's probably going to happen. Watch him go to the Lakers. I can just see LeBron just adding him at the last week.
Or the Clippers. I mean, this team's going to – You bring up that TP, John. This team will be interesting with that because the pieces are just so weird there. I mean, they do have good players, but it's just like, well, how does all this fit together? The worst thing, too, is they drafted good players. I mean, they get Killian Hayes, who I love. Bay is going to, waste away his days there. And Isaiah Storr played great tonight, too, who I wanted on the Celtics. So, I guess they're the new Kings who eat up some great talents and just put them in the worst situations.
You like Killian Hayes?
I do. He's gone off to a brutal start, though.
Pritchard murdered him. Didn't Pritchard murder him in cold blood?
He looks rough to start this year, but he's got no spacing. It's all big centers around him. I don't know what you do with that. He's like a, kind of wing point guard hybrid. I thought that pick was so weird for them. And really everything they did this year was so weird. I don't understand it. It's so strange watching them. And Jimmy brought up those Josh Smith, Drummond, and Greg Monroe teams. It's that all over again. It really is.
By the way, it looks like Halliburton is this year's hero, huh?
Yeah, he looks good.
The guy who went a pick or two before that, it was like, oh, if you could have just had that guy.
When he went, you were like, ah, damn.
Yeah. We're going to get somewhere with Neesmith, and I know, you got to give him his time and everything like that, but when you think about the pick, it was made for a shooting guy who's ready to roll. You can plug right in to drill some shots, and if the defense and if all these other things are he's not ready to roll. That's kind of the point there.
That's the worst thing about it is you drafted a guy.
He's not like a project. You know what I mean?
Right. You drafted a guy with who'd played and had college production. He wasn't a one and done guy.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not asking him to run the offense. You're asking him to stand in the corner. And hit 3-pointers.
So there's my question. If Grant Williams is going to stand at the corner and miss threes, can't Neesmith just stand in the corner?
You would think so, but
it's that defensive emphasis, and they're not playing great defense.
What emphasis? What defensive emphasis is Grant Williams? Again, I'm not trying to hate on Grant Williams, but let's stop acting like he's DPOY over here, man.
Well, he's a proven NBA defender. That's what it comes.
You guys got to admit though, he looked way better defensively last year. I don't know what happened during the offseason, but he just hasn't looked the same at all this year.
Yeah. I won't argue with that. I'm just explaining the rationale right now, which might be misguided, might not be. They're saying that this guy can't defend.
Right. You need defense or offense down the stretch.
But let me ask you this.
You need offense.
But you do. But I don't object to him not playing. Him not playing means he's probably nowhere frigging near.
We saw him yesterday. He didn't look good.
He doesn't know where he's supposed to be at all. What I'm saying is, the natural thing to do is to put up the defenses and say he's just a rookie. It's early. They missed camp. Pile up the excuses, all of which are legitimate, but they might not necessarily be the reason. My concern is there something that they didn't see in the draft process? They got the guy here and they were like, uh-oh, that's your concern.
Yeah, easily. This would be the year that happens.
That's the case. That's the fear is he should, after playing 2 years at Vanderbilt and the type of game that he has, be able to come in here and in spots do some stuff. And the fact that Stevens laughed about it in the preseason when asked about where he's at, and he's like, the dude can't get up the court. He's completely lost. Don't expect to see him soon. That's somewhat surprising to be that far behind on a team that desperately needs people to take minutes. And I am worried that he's not what they thought he was, and they're trying to figure out how to kind of fix that. I don't know. That's the worry.
What?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm comparing this year's draft class to like online dating. And what I mean by that is like, anyone who's ever been on online dating, and I'm not, we may get some online dating sponsors someday. So it's very successful for some people, but you just don't know what you're getting yourself into when you're showing up to that first date. And then you sit down and you're like, you either know, you're like, oh boy, you don't look like your pictures, or you don't look, you're not really who I thought you were. And maybe it's because they didn't have, a long off season. They didn't have as much recruiting as they needed. They didn't get to meet these guys ahead of time and really get a good feel for who they were drafting. Maybe they just took a flyer and they said, I'll go on a date with this person, and hopefully it works out. Well, maybe it's not going to work out. That's my comparison is online dating to this draft class. Joe Sweat, you've been on a lot of online dates.
No, that's all you, Jimmy. That's all you.
Jimmy's a master.
You used to tell me your stories, man. Those are good. Back when we had that sponsor, I won't mention the name of the sponsor. I'm not gonna give anybody any free plugs. But
some of these NBA teams, they probably went on great first dates from online dates. Some of these teams aren't going to, and maybe the Celtics are just one of those teams that like they sat down and like, oh boy, I got to get out of here.
I think they're crazy about it, Jimmy. I think they think second or third date is appropriate. I don't think they're panicking with Neesmith.
But you got to have a couple more dates.
Hey, LinkedIn has DMs. The Aaron Naismith, the whole thing about him.
We could spend way more than 10 minutes talking about awful online dating stories.
The thing about Naismith, I'm going to keep going back to it, is they drafted him as a guy who was ready to roll, and he's not. And that was like the big thing there. You had some holes on this team to fill, and it feels like he's a little bit
come right in and contribute and shoot, right?
Yeah, and that was the thinking behind the Pritchard one too. Like we're weak at point guard. This guy is ready to roll at that position, and that one worked. So it's not looking great, and there were other shooters available. We think of Bay, we think of Tyrell Terry, Desmond Bain, who a lot of draft guys liked, and Boston ended up trading away. We're going to do this all year. It's really tough to tell with these young players early on, but to have a guy just like Langford last year who's just not able to play right away, whether it's because of injuries or readiness, that kills you when you have a need there on the wing. And they didn't think they would have that last year. But
you guys gonna James Young him?
Yeah,
John, you really put that up.
Neesmith and James Young already.
You might as well just throw Yabu
guy RJ Hunter at
in
least
there
before you put Neesmith there. Jeez.
No, because RJ Hunter and Yabu are taken in the 20s. Okay, James Young was 16. Neesmith and Langford both 14. Those are spots.
Those are
the lottery picks.
That was the year they got Rozier.
The lottery picks, technically. And
it's too soon. Too soon for that comparison. Shame on you, Steve C.
I'm with you with the James Young one, though.
Weird looking C.
If put it this way, John, if you had to pull this graphic up in about a year and a half or so, it's gonna be bad for the Celtics. It's gonna be bad.
Jimmy, what you said though is interesting because we had Brad earlier this, the beginning of the season saying that he hadn't been playing 5-on-5, so that kind of indicates that they didn't see him in a 5-on-5 setting. You only had a half season of him playing there at Vanderbilt this last year before the injury. So literally, it feels like all they have to go on is that second half season at Vanderbilt. The first one wasn't that great, kind of an average year in his freshman year. Yeah. And that's what they went off, like a great shooting stretch to start last year.
Yeah, but Bob, it's not like this is another thing too that Celtics fans need to remember. It's not like if there was hypothetically a summer league that he would have participated because his foot wasn't ready yet. I mean, this whole thing was from the start. The Celtics knew what they were getting themselves into. That this thing was going to take some time.
Ridiculous. You got to change your username if you ever want to be back on blasted up on this.
We'll have to see.
I kind of like it because you can't tell if he's a Kyrie fan or if he's not.
So can I? I'm surprised we're here with this.
Duncan Robinson is a legit NBA.
I want to give a nod to some of the comments here. There's an insane amount of people here who are all over Tatum right now on the comments. And again, I've been critical of him a little bit only because it's relative to his top 10 in the MVP conversation expectations, not just at face value whether he's good or not good. Obviously, he's an excellent player. But there's a lot of people here dogging him for his weight, saying the 10 pounds he looks slow. saying he's playing too passively, and a lot of different things. I'm just throwing that out there for you guys. I'm not saying it myself, but we have at times wondered if Tatum's been too passive after a couple of games where he didn't really need to do much last game, but I thought he played efficiently. The game before that, he was very, very aggressive, but obviously that's coming off of the heels of a couple of games where he was settling for stuff. We've been talking about since the beginning of the season. It looks like he can't turn the corner and get around guys the way he was before. He did start a lot of those step through, up and under sort of fakes to get free and get his shot, but again, it's me, and again, other people are seeing it too here, so I'm just throwing it out there. He doesn't look as twitchy. He doesn't look like he's got guys on a string, like he did. There was a lot of, you got a lot of ankle breaking highlight reels, even when he would take a step back, where he would just have guys just so worried about getting blown by or getting whatever, and he'd get a real separation on those step backs. He doesn't seem to be getting those as much now. So
yeah,
anything you're seeing there, I mean, again, it's easy to point to 10 pounds of weight. I didn't really see, he doesn't look stronger or bigger, or it doesn't look like weight room weight, but he's got one of those physiques. It's going to be hard for him to ever look like, unless he hits it hard one year. But what do you guys think as far as that? Does he look physically the same?
Yeah, I think he's still adjusting to it a bit. I think there's some truth to that. I mean, he's not built like, we always compare, or at least in the beginning of his career, we compare his game to Durant a lot, but his body type is a little different, right? He has much more muscle than Durant, especially now. So I think it's kind of harder for him to maybe adjust, but in the sense of turning the corner, yeah, I agree to that to a certain extent. But what I'm looking at is his footwork. I think he's improved a bit with that, and I think that's what's been so frustrating for me, at least in the first few games of the season, where it's just like, dude, you had the footwork, just go inside, and he was just chucking away. But tonight that wasn't the case. He did force the issue. He did take a couple of those step three-pointers that sort of frustrate you. But when he got to the free throw line, when he got to his spot, when he pulled up and those shots weren't falling, then it was like, okay, Tatum, you didn't know down the stretch if it was going to go in. It was sort of 50-50, it felt like. Whereas with Jaylen Brown, it felt like, okay, now he's cooking. Jaylen can really close this one out.
I don't have any problems with Tatum aside from the turnovers. Like, those are still my thing with him, and I'm going to nitpick it to the maximum because we think of him as being that number one or top five guy.
Tatum soft. Oh, come on, Ross.
Bobby, I'm asking physically, does he look less athletic, less mobile? And again, we know, and I know this is a rough comment on the Tatum is soft, but he does not play to contact.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just does not do it.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Does not do it, and it affects his shots because he's not enough of a leaper to go up and over people. So he's still doing too many of these scoopy, extended arm things around the basket. It's one of the reasons he misses layups, because he changes his shot to take a shot that's not as natural for him. Instead of just going and just drawing the foul and playing through contact, he will not seek it out. That's a separate issue. The other is just simply, Bobby, athletically, you don't see any sort of drop there.
Not a ton. There's been a few plays where I'm seeing what you're saying. I think that weird one against the Grizzlies where he was like at point blank range and like step back into the 15-footer was a little weird. So it feels like he's kind of just getting that footing under him of being on the ball a lot more, creating for himself a ton more. Just like, to start his career, he was off ball a lot, playing off other guys. And he's getting in that playmaking position. He has to worry about, who's to my left, who's to my right, dealing with double teams as consistently as he does. There's just a lot going on around him as a number one guy. And he handled it extremely well in the playoffs. So there's definitely a difference at the start this year through some of his more trouble-filled stretches. But, this is night in and night out now at the start of the year. You got to get used to being in that position. Physically, maybe a few plays, but I feel like overall he's been all right. Am I missing anything, Jimmy?
No, but I'm kind of confused. So there's people saying he needs to lose weight, John. You can't. What do you say,
commenters
Joe?
aren't liking the 10 pounds. They think he's slow, and I'm just pointing it out because I've said it a few times, both in the preseason and early in this year. He does not look as quick and twitchy as he did last year when he was, and that's. Again, but I'm willing to say that's working his way into the season, and it's still.
Well, your point there is he could be using that size to embrace contrast.
But that's the other thing is, if this happens and you do grow, right, and you are stronger, 100%. Let's say he did lose 1/8 of a step. Who knows? I'm not saying anything. he should absolutely be seeking out contact a little bit more if he's a little bit bigger. That's the point of him getting bigger. It's been the point since he got in the league. Everyone's saying he needs to add muscle to his frame. It's not just drawing contact when you get to the basket. It's on your way to the basket. It's so easy to get knocked off your line.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's where we are here.
If you don't have the base to continue driving through people, it's so easy. If you're a step behind, physically you can get knocked back and the other guy can catch up. And that's always been a thing with him too.
Well, let's compare it to another guy, Anthony Davis.
What's his listed weight? Do we know? Anyone know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm thinking of another guy who transformed his body. You know, John can look up the weight real quick.
No, but see, he's not. He doesn't think he's Kobe because Kobe wants the contact. Kobe goes in and he, when the guy jumps up, he's not going for the fadeaway. He's going.
Well, I think of the way Anthony Davis plays too. You know, on the wing for the Lakers, where he's gone to with them. You see the way he uses his body to bump guys out of his way in the lane. And if guys are going to get in his way, there's going to be a collision at the rim, and there's going to be a foul, and he's going to be going to the line. I think that's the most fair criticism you can come up with of Tatum this year because he hasn't been bad. You know, he's not struggling right now. This is a perfectly fine game from him, especially toward the end. You're just nitpicking him because we raised him to that massive standard of being a top 10 guy in this league. So that's the kind of thing you have to do if you're that guy. Embrace contact. And, always be willing to, get a blocking foul on a guy at the rim instead of avoiding him. But, we saw that at the beginning of last year. And as the season went on, he kind of grew more comfortable, got to the line more often. Maybe this is kind of an early season thing that he has to deal with, get used to that contact, get in the flow of things.
I know.
Yeah, but I'll say, you can't say that.
We say he's top 10, but I can name. Can you name 9 other guys? I mean, the guys who are above him. They all go for the
Jaylen Brown.
They all get to the free throw line.
Yep.
All right. What I'm going to say is you can't say that Jason Tatum needs to lose weight. He's not a guard. He's not playing shooting guard. He doesn't need to be the quickest guy on the floor. He needs to put on weight and muscle like he's doing.
It's a good weight.
He's still a growing boy. Let's not forget that. The kid just grew 2 inches over the last few months here. He's putting on the weight to try to keep up with him. He might be 7'2" by next season. So he's gonna have to keep putting on weight, good weight, like John said, muscle. Is he gonna lose a little bit of his speed? Maybe, but if you sacrifice the speed
there's
for
no reason
power,
you should.
contact, I don't think he will either. I mean, he's 22 years old. I mean, this guy is not even near the prime of his career. Like let's put the brakes on him. Like don't tell me he's out of shape and all this. I mean, these guys are now, like, they're at the Celtics facility. They're on a program. They're all on a program, whether it's dietary, working out. I mean, they're playing every other day. They're not, like, eating Easy Mac, every night. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these guys know what they're doing.
He's a growing boy. Maybe he is.
He is.
Growing boy. I mean, let's be honest.
That's another T-shirt.
Maybe they're eating Fruity Pebbles in the morning, hanging out.
That's it. So
rubbing their socks and their feet together and shit.
You want him to play power forward, and you want the Celtics to not go big, and you want him to play the 4, then he has to put on a little bit of muscle. And you guys are all right. He needs to seek contact. One of the best things that Paul Pierce did was he embraced contact. He looked for contact. He was the loudest. He was the loudest guy in the gym when somebody touched him. He would call for more fouls than anybody in the world has ever dreamed of calling for, and he would probably get them, I think. So that's what Tatum has to add to his game. Look for contact, create contact, get loud out there, force the ref to blow his whistle, and, make a name for yourself that way. You know what Tatum does? He complains about not getting fouls instead of creating fouls. That's what he needs to focus on.
I'll say this too. I want to bring this to the other end of the floor.
He does not get fouled on every shot.
I want to take this to defense because what did I say before this year? This team had the potential to be the best defensive team in the league, and they had all the personnel you could dream of: Tatum, Brown, Smart, Thompson, and instead they're one of the worst. And that's still a concern to me. It was another concern tonight. Helping yourself with turnovers, but that's somewhere else Tatum can really step up. I mentioned it to you guys during the beginning of the fourth quarter. He took that game over defensively with the steals, with the breakouts, locking down Grant. I know we talked about Grant's struggles late in this one. that Tatum was a big part of that. So that's another area where he can be more consistently great for this team to start this year. I'm still mesmerized that this group is as bad defensively as they are to start this year. And I talked to Nick about it too. Like I said, this group, they have that potential. They might not be the best offensively, but defensively, they could be locking down. Yeah. And man, were we wrong. Like they just don't look like a team who
get off the phone, Nick.
Locks down,
bro. Put the phone down.
Yeah, that looks like a good person to waste your Celtics takes on.
Not drink and text.
Who said that? Who said that before the draft?
No, but I hope a seed 44 here knows that I said abso-freaking-lutely trade Marcus Smart for and that the Warriors would never in 10,000 years do that. But anyway,
James Wiseman, you weren't missing there for sure.
They need all of that right now.
This is the roughest comment we've had in our history.
It's wrong.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume that Matthews had a few.
And again, we're nitpicking.
And that's okay if he has.
We're nitpicking with Tatum. We're not saying he stinks.
He's saying Tatum is Wiggins. I think he means Tatum, but he spelled it wrong. But that's not true. Tatum is 10 times the shooter.
Okay, Wiggins. How about this one? This one's worse.
No.
Oh.
That's so untrue and awful that
it's so bad that we lost Joe Sway.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll say this about Jeff Green. Second least favorite Celtic. You already know my least favorite Celtic. Jeff Green was my second least favorite Celtic. And this after that, I don't dislike anybody. Who?
Rondo.
Is yours?
No, yours.
Oh no, I love Rondo, dude. Are we kidding me? I love Rondo guy. So I'll back Rondo till the day I die. But Jeff Green, see you later. I mean, talk about
wait,
who was your least
bad
favorite?
attitude too?
Kyrie?
Come on. Yeah.
Okay. I barely consider him a Celtic. He was here for friggin' 10 minutes.
He was here for 2 years.
I know, but what?
Yeah, but the injury. Yeah,
the injury.
I had a question for Joe Sway. He keeps disappearing, but these series are going to be interesting.
Just like plug the friggin' thing in.
No, I couldn't hear everyone except for you, John. I'm like, no, I got to do this again.
Joe Sway, I want to ask about your favorite topic here.
What's up?
I was gonna ask about your favorite topic here, these series, because we're gonna see the Pistons twice. Are all of these gonna be splits pretty much? The first one was the split between Boston and Indiana there, and a lot of them seem to be going that way.
Some good split talk.
I think so. I think it's gonna happen a lot of the time, Bobby. I really do.
This is where everyone goes to the bathroom.
Pistons or
I'm gonna take off for a minute.
Well, I use that to lead into. I mean, we're in panic mode right now. We're freaking out about Nesmith and Tatum. I still look at this team and say, like, get to 500 through the stretch without Kemba. Like, you might be the 6th seed, you might be the 7th seed, but you're going to be in a better spot.
This guy's talking about 500 now. I mean,
you're going to learn a lot about it too, though.
No, you know why I say that, though, Jimmy? Because once you get Kemba back, you start to integrate Langford later in this year. Like, this is all going to be a building up year for this team. So I see, like, trends not going in the greatest direction to start this year. We knew that was going to happen. I mean, you guys were freaking out coming into the season saying they could be way back. Yeah, I've been known to drive around in the truck.
No, it's just the colors. It's just the colors.
Joe Sway got that Brockton Wi-Fi.
That's what had me laughing in the middle of Bobby talking. Yo, I lost it. That's mad funny.
These commenters, they're stepping up their game.
Every game,
it's
game
not worse than Kendrick Perkins, though. Perkins, man, that was a disaster tonight.
Oh,
you look like you're in dial-up half the time, bro.
No.
I feel like we're getting the AOL, like.
I swear it fades. It fades as the show goes on, bro. The Wi-Fi just fades.
You don't want to become known as the guy with bad Wi-Fi, Joe Sway. That's not who you want to be.
Yo, that Brock the
guy. What can Bobby do for you? Man.
I'm just telling you guys.
That's such a local joke.
I asked John this point blank the other day. And he actually agreed with me. Is this team ahead of schedule or behind schedule? Because for all the nitpicking we're doing, I still feel like they're ahead of schedule in terms of what we expected.
Well, if the schedule is taking you nowhere, then yeah. I mean, but right now, what are you seeing from this team that like makes you feel okay?
Well,
like,
let's talk about this.
Who guys?
When does Brad give up on Grant? Realistically, guys.
He can't. How can he?
Right?
There's no one else.
I agree. You can limit his minutes, you can limit his usage, but he has to go out there.
And the question by the end of the season, like, once they get back Kemba, once they get back Langford, did they make the right decisions to carry this team through this early stretch here? Now, you can't build your roster for 20 games at the start of the year when you're banged up, but to have 4 centers and 2 wings, just you see the impact of that early on. Like they're kind of disjointed in the way the roster's built. And I see some Javonte Green in the comments. That's a fair point too. He's been out. They can't do the 3 wing lineup the same way. But
tonight, for sure.
That wing depth is killing them right now in a bad way. And we can't call Grant a wing.
That's my boy. That's Sean Dutra from the Causing Street podcast. He lives in Brockton. That's why I was dying laughing.
I assumed it was a private joke.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
Beautiful house, though. Beautiful house.
Oh, so here's a fair comment because everyone knows where I land on this one. This is from Griffin. Why is everyone sure everything's going to be fine when there's Kemba? I'm not. I'm really worried that Kemba. And again, I'm still viewing Kemba as, and I'm still viewing it as if not when. I'm not certain that they get to the end of whatever assessment period here and that they're like, okay, here he comes. He's going to be back in 100%. I'm pretty worried about it still. And I don't think
you shouldn't worry so much.
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to think it's going to be all right just when I don't think he's a savior when he comes back. I think if he comes back and he's close, of course, it makes a huge difference. But I'm still pretty worried about that.
Yeah, but he's got to ramp up though, right, guys? I think what Griffin's trying to say is he's not going to just come in and just start dropping 20, right away. And I'm not saying it's going to take him a few games. This might take him a few weeks. What you hope is you get that Kemba in the postseason. I think that's what you're wishing for. I think that's what the Celtics are realistically aiming for. You're not going to get the Kemba Kemba's not going to be an 80% balling out in the middle of March. I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think that's going to be the case. But if he's back by March or at least late February and he's working his way back, then that's a good sign for the Celtics.
Yeah, the tricky thing about him is yeah, I don't want to think about that one. What Kemba's going to need to get to when he gets back is that explosiveness, the creation for himself to take pressure off Tatum and Brown in that regard. What's tough, and I'll give you this, John, he's not an elite facilitator. So if he comes back and he's not really getting his, but he's still that great dribbler and carving out traffic, that's going to be an adjustment for him. That's like a role he's going to have to get more comfortable in, is being that pure facilitator. Kind of think about what Pritchard's doing for them right now. He's not scoring a ton, but he's opening up for other guys.
Right.
That's not what Kemba does. Kemba goes out there and lights it up and takes pressure off guys by being that single, point scorer. So I'll give you that. He's got to come out and score. He's got to come out and be explosive. And I don't know. None of us know if that's going to happen.
Well, he's also a threat from the perimeter, right? Too. That's another thing to keep a close eye on. Like, what if he doesn't get back?
Yeah, but not off the ball. He's got to be on the ball making that happen.
Yeah, that's true. I just think he forces opposing defenses to really guard the perimeter when he gets going. Over 40% from the 3. Like that also makes them make the Celtics a tough team to guard in the backcourt.
I'm throwing this comment up here because again, I'm not trying to dog the guy. I am so shocked at how unathletic Tristan Thompson is. I really
Who do you think he was, LeBron?
I thought he was more athletic. I thought he had a little more juice. He is glued to the ground.
That's it, man.
Glued to the ground. I thought he had a little bit more. I'm not saying he's leaping through the building, but for an undersized center, he cannot. He's really battling. He's an absolute brawler, but he's plays with energy, plays hard. You love what he brings to the table, but man, he's just not athletic at all. Just clumsy as hell on offense, and we knew that. But I don't know. I'm not having buyer's remorse fully here, but I'm not in love after 6 games. I'll just say that.
I think he's been solid considering the kind of shape he came in with, but I'll go back to this. Were there great wing options out there? Probably not in terms of a mid-level kind of player, but if they don't kind of shape into a more traditional lineup here, like every center is going to be limited by the other center, whether it's Grant at the 4, whether it's Tice at the 4. You know, Tice was talking the other day, I haven't played 4 in like ever. Like this is like his first time ever playing the 4. And like Thompson's manning that middle, so he's kind of in a comfortable position, but is he surrounded by people who are complementing his game the most in terms of a lineup? This team looks awkward. We talked about how weird the Pistons roster is. The Celtics, you know, starting Tice and Thompson isn't too far off. So you have 4 centers and 2 wings. I'm going to keep going back to that. And that makes for some awkwardness for all the centers involved. Like Tice, he's dealing with it. You know, Rob's the only guy who's adjusting comfortably. Do we have an update on him? Is he fine?
I haven't seen anything yet.
All right.
They said he was available to go back in.
He didn't look
I feel like
good,
he really
though.
got boxed out in that fourth quarter too. Like he's big on the putbacks and the tap, you know, but he just got flat out boxed out a lot of
This
those.
is Thompson or Rob?
Yeah, Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the way I ideally imagine him, again, just like Tice, is at center, 3 wings around him, everybody switching. Like you can't have Grant and Thompson and play a switch defense, or Tice and Thompson and like it's awkward. It doesn't work. It's not the same as Hayward and Tice as last year at that 4 or 5 spot.
The Robert Williams thing, I mean, they said he was theoretically available late, but he just didn't go in.
What was the injury?
It was the knee on knee thing, it looked like.
Was it knee? All right, so he'll be fine. I got a little worried with the hip there, seeing that with his pass there, but he'll probably be good. But I want to see more of for these games to come, and who knows how far along Green's going to be out. More Green at the 4, more of those kind of lineups, or if you want to do what they did tonight with 3 guards, and you've mentioned this, John, Smart, Brown, Pritchard, or even T, Pritchard, Smart.
I'd like that 3-guard lineup better, sliding Jalen over to more of a 3. You know
what that's going to mean, though? Grant's not going to play at all.
Oh no!
I know. I'm not mad about that, but
Change
it. Are they going to do that? Like Brad, for some reason, still is really married to those Grant minutes.
Well, he's supposed to be the Swiss Army knife, right? He's supposed to take another stride here, but he hasn't. I think even Brad is surprised. He's just thinking it's going to happen any day now.
Again, like I see him at center, don't you, Josue? Like that 4 is not working.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think that outside shot, I think maybe he's in his own head again, sort of like flashbacks of last year. But speaking of outside shooting, though, how important is that for Tice? Because I feel like sometimes that would sort of open things up, but I felt more comfortable with him shooting 3s in the bubble than I do now, and that's not good. I thought I feel better about him. 3s.
Did he take any tonight? I mean, he's been okay.
1 or 2, I think. And they both looked horrible, but he had the open look, so it's sort of like that situation where he always finds himself in where he's like he has to take it. Whereas before he used to hesitate, but then in the bubble it was like automatic in the sense of he was just gonna take it.
He used to be better. He definitely used to be better during that second year, I think, 2019.
Exactly.
So
I think that's when he was at his best, or he found that touch, I guess.
Hey, so here we are. Like this lineup's a little awkward.
It is. And every time they lose, you're going to see you'll see all the warts, and then they win, and you celebrate the accomplishments of Tatum and Brown. We're going to be riding this roller coaster for a little bit. Again,
I think there's a 500 team for a while.
Hector said he's a dull Swiss Army knife. That's facts. Yeah. Very dull, mad dull, not sharp at all.
I like that.
He has all the tools, but they're just not sharp. They're not.
He's a no tool. Right.
This kind of goes.
Bobby's in their 500 basketball team until Kemba comes back, and then we're pretty much saying, or some of us are saying, that Kemba either may not come back if you're John, or
not
if
may
you're
not.
Josue or me. Or
I just want to see.
Saying he may not come back 50% until like a month later, and even then, who knows where he's going to be. So I mean, really, like, where is this team in the Eastern Conference? Are they just slightly above 500? Shut up, Brockton. Sure.
They're probably not a home court team for sure. The way they look now, can you build up some guys? Does Neesmith get involved? Like that's the stuff we're gonna start to answer as the year goes on. And that's why I don't want to make like definitive judgments right away on what this team is. Like they're just so far away from what we're going to see. But as they look now, you know, they're probably not better than Philadelphia. They're probably not better than Indiana. Like,
well, Indy just lost Warren.
Warren hurts.
Yeah.
That's huge.
The Heat have looked good. The Bucks, we know what the Bucks are. So you're looking at that 6 seed like as they are right now. And I'm not hammering them in as 6, but they're going to play a good portion of the schedule with the team they have right now.
I want. Can somebody acknowledge what a massive departure this is from what Bobby was saying like 2 games ago?
Yeah. Or
this was our logic. This looks like about a 6-ish seed. You know,
Bobby's mailing it in now. He's like, no, they're 5th.
No. I'm not. I'm saying like 20-game sample size
as currently constructed. Yeah.
Yeah, and then once you start to integrate in the other stuff later, and some of these young guys possibly improve, and Thompson starts rolling at his highest rate, you go on a late season stretch. That's what I've been hoping for all along. And everybody in the comments saying I got to get in the truck right now. So pick me up, Jimmy. It's heating up outside.
If you want to isolate one of the other guys, and you could go and change real quick.
This is why all the Christmas gifts were late. I was on this show.
Yo, what if midway through your take, if you just put a UPS jacket on while you're talking, bro, I'd lose it, man. I would lose it.
If you come in with a full UPS hat next time, I will love it.
Let me look for that right now. I don't know. Here we are. They're probably gonna beat the Pistons on Sunday, and we'll be high, and we're gonna be low on other games.
And someone just made a really good comment here.
4 good-looking guys.
We are. You are. The Heat are 2-3. Milwaukee, Brooklyn 3-3. Toronto just won their first game.
I was wrong about that Brooklyn start.
It's like when John, you put the graphic. I think you sent it through the group text when you were like, just like everyone predicted, right? The top 4 teams in the East were all nowhere near
Orlando, Atlanta. Yeah.
I'm glad you put this comment up because we have to ask the Prime Minister himself, Bobby, the Prime Minister of Canada. What's going on in Toronto? Why was Siakam benched? And has Nick Nurse lost the locker room? My guy, Nick Nurse.
I think that Tampa got screwed in a way that I think they got screwed in a way that other teams haven't this year. And it's a weird year, but like to be thrown down to Tampa, what were they doing? Sending that team down there, and just like so many of their teams or so many of their lives have been uprooted. You got guys who have been living in Canada for years, trying to figure out that whole situation. I mean, guys were still figuring out where they were going to be living there, like in the last days of training camp. So, I mean, that was just a brutally unfair thing that they had to deal with this year. And they lost some good players. Serge Ibaka is an outstanding guy. Gasol, we knew he wasn't the best, but like that team is just going through it in a way that no other team's going to go through it this year. They have a tough travel schedule. And they're coming up on the schedule for the Celtics too. So that's good for Boston that team that was going to kind of be a shoo-in in the top 4 or 5 there is, dealing with a lot right now. But yeah, they don't look very good. And you got to wonder if they're going to be one of those teams that blows it up, goes in that direction this year. I think.
No, Bobby. You know what I said, man? I'm not giving up on it. Just pull the trigger. Do it. Missouri would do it, man. Trade for Harden. Just do it, Toronto. Just roll the dice. It'll be entertaining for all of us. We can all see what's going to happen.
I think that's still the team. You're right, Josue.
Do it. Make it happen, Toronto. You did it once and it paid off. Do it again. Imagine. I don't think it's going to happen, but can you imagine if James Harden can bring that team to the NBA Finals? The Toronto Raptors back in it when no one else expected it.
Feels like they could use a shakeup like that, especially if they're, souring on Siakam a little bit.
Look at the Celtics after every loss like this. We're going to have 2 days of trade for Harden talk, and then they're going to beat the bag out of Detroit next time, and everything will be fine. So
that's officially closed. The way Brown's looking right now, you don't even consider it. Like he's ascending to a level that wouldn't even make that worth it.
Oh yeah, no, I've never been for that, just because it's you're not.
Yeah, we got to talk about it. Yeah,
you're not trading a 2-way player who's under 25, who you have under one of the best contracts in basketball right now for any
player option at the end. Yeah,
for very few people. I mean, Jalen is too good. So this will wrap it up. I think we've done all we can do here. We got the same two teams at it again. I am curious. How they come out next time. This is going to be one of these Mad Brad sort of.
Yo, John, get that. What can Brown do for you? Yo, that's perfect. That's perfect. That should be a graphic for.
We should ask
the
Bobby.
Next big Jalen Brown game.
We should ask Bobby. Bobby, what can Brown do for you? Since you're the UPS guy,
they know what they're doing. That's a double entendre. They call that.
I love it.
So
I got 2 of these shirts. I'll have to wear them more often. It gets the people going.
Hey, I got Brown on too. What? No one wants to.
Gets the people going.
It's kind of burnt sienna orange.
That's another color.
Yeah, it is. It's canyon.
I don't know. So we'll wrap it up.
True,
we got to get Gelso to shut his TV off here. So he's not going to go. He's not going to chill until we stop. So we got to stop.
I know he's going to keep going on. That's true. That's true. And also, I'm gonna hit up my landlord and be like, "What the f is going on with this Wi-Fi?
With this
I'm on it, guys.
Wi-Fi.
I'm on it. Wi-Fi game is going to be stepped up. You'll see.
I want to see HD next time.
Yeah. Same 2 teams. It's a matinee on Sunday. We'll have some cast of characters back during the game. Oh yeah, we do. We
trying to make some money over here, bro.
We have a sponsor.
Do we have a sponsor? We've got sponsors.
We're gonna make that paper this year. New year, new money.
Yeah. LinkedIn. You get jobs, kid.
Right. New Year's resolution: get your job application out there. Get off
the job, kid. That's the whole thing.
Start the new year right, kid. Get a job.
Start the new year right. Get a job. Fucking deadbeat.
We are on fire on LinkedIn. I mean, the amount of people looking for jobs there.
LinkedIn ad right there. That's the tagline right there.
Yeah,
new year, get a job,
kid. But the real tagline is this, okay? The New Year's here.
You got to move out, buddy.
Fresh start for your small business. You're shifting hours, hiring more people. One thing remains unchanged: the importance of having the right people on your team. So when your business is ready to make that next hire, LinkedIn Jobs. That's where you go. Active community professionals, 722 million members worldwide. Post a job, screening questions. You know how it works. Manage the job post, contact candidates. What you need to do here is visit linkedin.com/scribe. You get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/scribe. $50 off your job post. And if you're not hiring people but just looking for a job, just go get one on LinkedIn.
I wonder if the outside shooters on LinkedIn the Celtics can hire. Maybe they could use this promo code if there are any of them watching. LinkedIn.com/scribe.
Right.
Get yourself a JOB.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a new year. You've been on the couch for the last 8 months. It's time to get your application out there. You know, COVID's going to end at some point.
Maybe you saw one of those Phoenix commercials when the guy's like pissed off. He's like, "You've been sitting on your couch all day. You say you're going to do it." That's what you sound like.
It's funny.
Go do it already.
I exited the chat for 10 seconds to do this read. And the last thing we were talking about was joking about Harden. And I come back to the chat and it's all about how Boston doesn't have good strip clubs. Like every single time we have this Harden conversation, all anyone talks about is like, no way he's coming here. We don't have the strip clubs. It's the conversation every time.
Rule one.
They've never been in the glass slipper. If anyone from the glass slippers watching, I salute you. I'm not going to disrespect.
You go to recruit Durant, you bring Tom Brady. You go to recruit Harden, you bring a bunch of friggin' girls from the glass, you know.
They all get robbed and stabbed.
Squire.
What happened? I thought you
bring
guys
a bunch you bring a bunch of ladies. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Toronto's got him. I heard.
We've done our read. We've done all we can do. Jimmy Toscano, Josue Pavone, Heavy.com, CLNS Media, Bobby Manning already wrote something for Celtics blog. He'll be doing stuff for CLNS Media as well after the game. A bunch of post-game stuff coming up on our YouTube channel. Subscribe. You get all of our notifications.
I've been rate 5 stars.
Yes, definitely. You know what's great about the impromptu content, you know, you get the alert right away, you can tune in. It's great.
Yeah. That's it. Both this, we have a main channel, we have a Celtics channel, there's a Patriots channel, there's a Bruins channel, any content you want. You subscribe to the Celtics channel, you will get alerted here. We're going to get a lot of other Celtics related content, not just game specific, a bunch of podcasts. Josue Pavone's got Causeway Street. Bobby Manning's got Dome Theory. We have Celtics Beat podcast with Adam Kaufman, Winning Plays with Brian Robb, Michael Pina, Rich Levine, Jeff Goodman, and Bob Ryan.
Their latest show was outstanding.
Podcast. Great podcast.
Cedric Maxwell podcast. It's absolutely loaded. We have some of the best basketball voices in the market here talking about the NBA and the Celtics. So this is the place you want to be. We're going to wrap it up. We got another game on Sunday, so we will